Hey everyone, it's Jax from the GH Spoilers YouTube channel. Today is Friday, a beautiful breezy day here in New York, but things in Port Charles are absolutely stormy. We are diving into the most explosive Wyndemere escape in history, featuring a massive return from the dead, a treacherous cliffside run, and a mob boss completely out for blood. Let's get right into the absolute madness. OH, my god, stop scrolling right now. I'm literally speechless. Are they for real? I just finished watching the latest sequence and my brain is completely short-circuiting. If you told me yesterday that the writers were going to pull off the ultimate bait and switch in the darkest, dampest corner of Spoon Island, I would have laughed in your face. But here we are, and the simulation has officially been reset. Does anyone else feel physically attacked right now? Because I am sitting here staring at a blank screen, trying to process the sheer magnitude of what just went down in those underground Wyndemere dungeons. We have been theorizing for months, spinning our wheels in the comments section, trying to figure out what Cassius, aka the fake Nathan West, was actually planning. And the answer was sitting right there in the dark, chained up and left to rot. I am legit shaking as I record this because the emotional payload of this episode was a straight up nuke to the fandom. Besties, can we unpack the audacity? Let's just rewind for a hot second and look at the setup. Jocelyn Jax gets snatched up by Cassius. We all knew she was in danger. We all knew that fake Nathan was unhinged, holding her hostage on Spoon Island, while Dante Falconeri is out, there losing his absolute mind trying to track down the truth. Jocelyn is thrown into this pitch-black, freezing, terrifying underground cell beneath the Wyndemere estate. The cinematography here is slay. The lighting was practically non-existent, giving us pure survival horror vibes. You could practically feel the cold stone and smell the mildew through the screen. Joss is terrified. She is isolated, and she thinks she is entirely alone. The psychological warfare Cassius is playing is next level toxic. But then she hears something. A rustle. A breath. A voice from the adjacent cell. And this is where the entire narrative flips on its head and sends us all into a collective tailspin. Dude, I'm so shocked my jaw literally hit the floor before the camera even fully panned over. Through the rusty iron bars of the neighboring cell, a figure shifts in the shadows. The voice is hoarse. Broken, but undeniably familiar. It's Spencer Cassadine. Yes, facts. No cap. Spencer is alive. He didn't die. He has been locked in this subterranean nightmare this entire time. I screamed so loud I probably woke up my neighbors. The sheer relief mixed with the absolute horror of realizing what he has been through is a cocktail of emotions I was not prepared to drink tonight. Spencer Cassadine, the heir, the prince, the boy who broke Trina's heart by supposedly dying, is sitting in a dungeon looking like he's been through a literal war zone. The writers actually went there. They kept him on ice, locked away by Cassius to be used as the ultimate blackmail chip against the Cassadine family. It is sick, it is twisted, and it is the most brilliant soap opera twist we have had in a decade. Wait, we need to break this down. Also, how long has Cassius been planning this? Essentially, Cassius intercepted Spencer, faked his demise, and stashed him in the one place nobody would ever look, his own family's dungeon. But get this, the mechanics of this blackmail plot are so deeply layered. Cassius wasn't just holding Spencer for fun, he was weaponizing the Cassadine bloodline. He was holding the ultimate trump card to extort the family, pulling strings from the shadows while everyone else mourned. The absolute villainy of this man is staggering. He manipulated the entire town, watched Trina grieve, watched Laura shatter, and all the while, he had Spencer chained to a wall. The sheer cruelty of the system mechanics functioning under the hood of this storyline is mind-blowing. The writers programmed the villain so devoid of empathy that he makes the original Faison look like a casual menace. Remember when they tried this with Nicholas Cassadine? Yeah, it went nowhere back then either. They kept faking Nicholas's death, hiding him away, and bringing him back, and it got so repetitive. Is this same tragedy happening to Spencer all over again? I mean, the Cassadines and fake deaths go together like peanut butter and jelly. But this one hits different because of the sheer brutality of the captivity. Spencer isn't sipping martinis on a private island, he is starving in a dungeon. It echoes the darkest eras of General Hospital lore, bringing back the gritty, high-stakes terror of the 90s and early 2000s. And to have Jocelyn be the one to find him, the poetry of it all, these two have so much history, so much baggage, and now they're thrust into the ultimate survival scenario together. Hot take incoming, but I actually think Jocelyn and Spencer being locked up together is the best thing that could have happened for their character development. We all know they have had their massive differences, They have bickered, they have judged each other. They have been on opposite sides of the Port Charles teen drama spectrum for years. But in that dark cell, all of that melted away. They had to put aside every single ounce of bad blood, every petty grievance, and every historical grudge. The moment they realized they only had each other, the dynamic shifted entirely. It was raw, it was authentic, and it was a straight-up masterclass in character evolution. They weren't the privileged kids of Port Charles anymore. They were two survivors, staring death in the face, deciding that today was not the day they were going to lose. But get this, the way they actually initiate the escape. It was God-tier mechanical execution. I am spamming legit and low-key in my group chats right now because the ingenuity was off the charts. Jocelyn and Spencer are scanning their cells looking for any possible weakness in the system. Cassius is distracted, likely dealing with Dante's furious investigation or plotting his next move. Spencer finds a rusted, sharp piece of metal protruding from the ancient decaying bed frame in his cell. It's legit the most MacGyver thing I have ever seen on this show. He manages to snap it off, and they use it to start working the archaic locking mechanism of the cell doors. I was low-key holding my breath for 10 straight minutes. The tension was so thick you could cut it with that very piece of metal. They are whispering, hands shaking, listening for Cassius's footsteps echoing down the stone hallway. The execution was flawless. I mean, think about the sheer desperation required to pull this off. Spencer's hands were likely bleeding, his muscles atrophied from months of confinement, yet he channeled every ounce of his Cassadine resilience into that single piece of rusted iron. Jocelyn, standing, watch her heart hammering so loud you could practically hear it over the soundtrack, coaching him through the panic. The synergy between them was electric. They weren't just picking a lock. They were hacking the mainframe of their own destiny, refusing to be collateral damage in Cassius's sick game. And then the door clicks open, the lock gives way, and this is where the total kinetic chaos moments take over. I am actually losing my sanity over here. The second they step out of those cells, the alarm bells in my head were ringing, because you just know it isn't going to be that easy. They have to navigate the labyrinth of Wyndemere's underground tunnels in the pitch black. With zero weapons and zero backup, every shadow looks like Cassius. Every drop of water sounds like a footstep. They burst out of the tunnel exit and suddenly, they are on the treacherous, jagged cliffs of Spoon Island. It is the middle of the night. The wind is howling. The ocean is violently crashing against the rocks below. The visual aesthetic was completely insane, serving massive gothic horror energy. The fog was so thick it looked like a living entity trying to pull them back into the abyss. Every jagged rock on that cliffside was a potential death trap. The sound design in this sequence deserves all the awards. You could hear the crunch of the gravel, the sharp intake of breath, the distant ominous tolling of a buoy bell out in the harbor. It was sensory overload in the best possible way. Jocelyn and Spencer were navigating a literal obstacle course of doom. And every time the camera cut to a wide shot of the island, you realized just how small and vulnerable they were against the massive, imposing silhouette of Wyndemere. The escape across the cliffs required impossible lightning reflexes. I am mashing the shift key right now because the choreography of this sequence was unbelievable. Jocelyn slips on the wet rocks and Spencer weak-starved, but running on pure adrenaline lunges and grabs her hand just before she goes tumbling into the freezing, violent waters of the harbor. The stakes were so high. They are scrambling over the craggy terrain, hiding behind boulders as the sweeping light of a security beam cuts through the fog. It was a breathless, high-speed sprint for survival. The raw, punchy lingo of their panic communication, go move, don't look back hit so different. It wasn't scripted soap dialogue. It was the frantic, desperate survival instinct of two kids fighting for their lives. I was literally on the edge of my seat, screaming at my television for them to just keep moving. I know some people are really enjoying this, but personally I have to ask, what is this going to do to Trina? This is just my personal take, and many might disagree. But the psychological toll this is going to take on everyone who mourned Spencer is going to be astronomical. Trina has been trying to rebuild her life, trying to find a path forward with Gio and her music. And now this massive bombshell is going to drop. Don't you feel it's so unfair for them? Don't you think they should have given Trina some kind of hint before unleashing this trauma? But at the same time, the drama is going to be so deliciously chaotic. The fallout from this escape is going to reset the entire social hierarchy of the younger cast. The trauma bonding between Jocelyn and Spencer is going to create a dynamic that nobody is ready for, and I am here for every single messy second of it. Eventually, by some absolute miracle, they make it off the island. They secure a dinghy, row across the harbor with blistered hands, and exhausted muscles and stumble onto the mainland docks. And where do they go? Straight to the one man who has the power, the resources, and the absolute ruthlessness to handle this sunny Corinthos. The scene where Jocelyn and Spencer practically collapse through the doors of Sonny's office is burned into my retinas. They are soaked, covered in dirt, and blood shivering uncontrollably. Sonny takes one look at his stepdaughter and the nephew of his longtime rival, and you can visibly see the exact moment the mob boss overrides the civilian. The emotional collapse of Jocelyn into Sonny's arms, sobbing out the truth about Cassius in the dungeon, was a phenomenal piece of acting. And Sonny's reaction, oh my god. The temperature in the room dropped 50 degrees. Sonny's eyes went completely dead, and you just knew that Cassius had signed his own death warrant. Sonny listens to the horrors. They endured the blackmail, plot the fake death, the physical and psychological torture. He realizes that Cassius, posing as Nathan, has been playing them all for absolute fools. Sonny goes into a state of terrifying quiet rage. He doesn't yell. He doesn't throw a glass against the wall. He just promises Jocelyn and Spencer that Cassius is going to pay with his life. Sonny vows to destroy him, to tear his entire operation down to the studs, and to make sure he regrets the day he ever set foot in Port Charles. We are so back, besties. The lethal, unhinged, protective mob boss, Sonny, is back online and the streets are about to run red. You could see the gears turning in Sonny's head, calculating the exact trajectory of his vengeance. He immediately starts rallying his enforcers, putting the entire Corinthos organization on high alert. He is not going to rely on the PCPD for this. He is not going to wait for Dante to file paperwork or for ADA Justine Turner to build a case. This is personal. Cassius crossed the line that you simply do not cross in Sonny's world. He touched his family. He tortured a kid who is basically family. The wrath that is about to descend on Spoon Island is going to be biblical. And I am absolutely vibrating with anticipation to see Cassius realize he messed with the wrong mob boss.